So first things first, how are you?
We're very well. Glad to be back in the Netherlands.
Yeah.
Very excited.
Well, good to see you again.
Thank you.
So you have a new album, and where I want to start with is with Hallelujah. There's a line I heard it on the radio on my way home. What kind of music did you listen to, kind of to feel empowered with in earlier years, or well, what kind of music did give you that kind of sense?
We both listened to a lot of music our parents listened to, right, by default. That was all songwriters like Cat Stevens, James Taylor, Elton John. These are all our parents' favourite stuff. They weren't really into like things like David Bowie, nothing too like psychedelic or anything. It was very straight songwriter, guitar music.
Carole King, Joni Mitchell. And then I think for me as well, someone like Norah Jones and Vanessa Carlton were like massive influences for me because they were women playing the piano, writing their own songs, singing their own songs, exec producing, if not producing their own songs, and they were doing everything. And as a woman, like there weren't really many of those to kind of watch and be inspired by. So as soon as I found Jamie Cullum first, and then I found Norah Jones, and then Vanessa Carlton, and that was it. Then I started writing songs myself.
Because then you thought, okay, that's what I want to do. I want to do everything myself and kind of...
Yeah, I think so.
I think, for someone to lead by example, it's pretty empowering, isn't it? To know that someone can do that.
Yeah, so. You forget that, like, as a kid, I think, well, I anyway, needed to see, like, a physical representation of something to be like, oh, I can do that. Right. I feel like that's how a lot of humans work. Like, they see whatever it is, they see themselves represented and they go, oh, well, I can do that then because someone else has done it before. It's difficult to be the first, isn't it?
Yeah, which is why the people who are the first at what they do are
insane. Yeah.
But because that's an interesting thought, and if you look back at when you started, and you've always said that this wasn't planned in a way. But now you're on album 3 and you're doing what you kind of set out to do. So if you go back to that initial thought, how far away from what you were trying to do are you now?
So far.
But still I think very close.
No, but I couldn't have imagined this.
No, I could not have imagined at all.
I reached my goals about 4.5 years ago.
Yeah, when you first spoke to us.
That was it. I was done. This is fine.
But I feel like our goals haven't changed. We still just want to be making music. Music for us is the most important thing. Like it's not... We have wider dreams and stuff, but I think we're still happy just making music and doing this. Everything else is just... Because I think amazing stuff has happened because we're just happy making music. We don't really want anything else, right?
Yeah, I would say that.
But I'm sure that especially early on there was a moment where, like you said, you need to see something happen before you can kind of visualize it for yourself. So was there a turning point where you thought, well, we deserve to be here, we can actually do this?
No.
No, I think imposter syndrome is well and truly settled.
I don't think I don't deserve any of this. I don't think, like, there are plenty of people that deserve this, that work hard and are talented. But so I think it's probably a combination of hard work and talent, but also like a lot of it is luck.
Even us just meeting, because we've both been separate artists for a long time. So for us to meet is luck, and for our voices to work like they do. Is luck.
But it's perseverance as well, I think, because
absolutely
we were both, well, I was anyway, like very close to just giving up, and like very close.
Can you go back to that moment very quickly? Kind of why did you contemplate kind of not doing it anymore?
Because I guess that, like, okay, so the odds of you being able to make money from singing, especially, like, I'm not blessed with Whitney Houston's voice, do you know what I mean? And I'm not as prolific as someone like Elton John, or, you know, I'm good, but I'm not overwhelming in any field. And I guess the odds of you, making it, i.e. having a career from it, are like so small that if your rational brain kicks in and you're like, okay, so the odds of this happening are probably like 1 in quite a few million. I'm probably more likely to win the lottery. Do you know what I mean? So when your rational brain kicks in, I had a degree from university that was really good. I was applying to be in one of the top law firms in London who were really interested, and I had a great alternative mapped out, and that's when I think temptation sets in, is when like you have a really dazzling opportunity, and it's risk, isn't it? It's like, do I want to throw all that in the vain hope that in the 1 in 10 billion chance this might work? And that's a massive decision, and I don't really know many people that would be comfortable making that, and I wasn't comfortable making it at all, but you just forced me into it, so I just couldn't really think about it. But I think if I'd have been on my own, I never would have done that.
But was that kind of partnership that you had then what kept it going in those difficult times?
I think so. I think we kind of dreamed our way through it. We kind of just picked each other up when we were struggling, right?
Yeah. We would empower you. Well, you empower me. We empower each other.
Yeah, we kind of gave it a reason. Like, we're separate songwriters, and then, which is quite hard to, like, when you're just writing songs and no one was in sessions with us. It's just us writing our own songs, and then to combine that with someone else and then be like, oh, we have to write a song because we said we would. It's very easy on your own to not write a song.
It's accountability, isn't
it? So I was then accountable for you, and you're accountable for me.
Yeah.
Which is really cool. And I think we became quite prolific because of that.
You didn't want to kind of disappoint you.
Exactly. You almost, at the start, you just want to impress them. Like, I can write loads of songs.
Yeah. And there still is that, though. Like, if one of you doesn't want to do something, you kind of just go, well, I have to do it because you don't want to let the other one down. It's quite clever, actually, being the duo, because then you just work all the time.
Yeah.
But that goes into a song and kind of segueing into the new album then, because there's a song, I can't remember which one it was now, where you talk about kind of the fact that you're always together, in the sense that you're in a band together, but then when you go home, you're also together. So in terms of songwriting, is that a tricky thing when you maybe write about each other, or that you're constantly
together? Always together. I think that the song you're talking about might be Nebraska.
Maybe.
Could be. What's wrong with the last one? Yes, probably Nebraska.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's a challenge. I don't think it can be an amazing thing and a slightly negative thing, right? To spend all the time together.
Well, it's just extreme, isn't it? So an extreme is only ever going to be brilliant or horrendous. So it's always one of the two. It's probably 98% of the time brilliant, because you're doing what you love with someone you love, and in your songwriting, like, it's way easier to be more vulnerable and open with somebody that you implicitly trust.
Sure.
On every level. So like the actual art and the creativity is unparalleled. Like, in terms of a writing partner, I couldn't imagine being that honest with someone else. Or like, and equally like honest not only in the lyrics, but like if I had an idea and you just go, no, it's not, no, we can do better, I won't ever take that personally.
Yeah.
Because there's no ego, I suppose. And then and then the when it's hard, obviously, is that you don't get the joy of missing someone, which is so joyful. Yeah,
it's true. When we spend even like 2 hours apart, I'll always get a phone call from you.
Yeah,
because we just don't spend any time apart. It's weird. Yeah. Probably spent 350 days a year together.
Yeah, probably. Yeah.
That's an interesting thought, because obviously, well, what I hear a lot is people who tour, they kind of miss home and stuff. But you have that little home with you. I think we talked about that last time around as well.
Yeah.
But what I find interesting then is when you took some time off, kind of, I think it was almost a year you took some time off. So did you kind of do things separately from each other, or was it still?
Yeah, we were definitely mindful of doing that, right? So we started going to like the gym separately, because normally like on tour, if we go to the gym, it's always in the hotel, and then we end up just working out together. Yeah. Different like gyms. Different social circles a little bit.
We have our own friendship groups. So we hang out. I hang out with the girls. You hang out with the guys.
Yeah, which is important. And then, but then it's weird, because then I don't know your friends as well as some other people do. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's different. If you compare a normal couple, they would spend their weekends socialising together with a big group of friends, whereas we consciously try not to do that.
Yeah.
So there's pros and cons, but like we took up different hobbies. You got really into making bread and coffee, which it's so funny, because we have a really nice coffee machine at home, and I purposefully don't know how to use it, because I don't want to. It sounds really weird, but like that's your thing.
That's fair.
I don't want to have another thing that we do together. I'm just like, you can make the coffee and the bread,
I see. Yeah. Or maybe it's because I'm really talented.
Yeah, no, you're really good at coffee. Yeah.
Great bread making.
Yeah, exactly.
With kind of what we mentioned earlier as well, you built a home studio. So how has that affected kind of the way you work? Because now even that is in a kind of a central place.
It's cool with the studio. It's very, even though it is in our garden, it's like you can, when you're in our kitchen, you look out into the studio. It is very separate when you're in there. Okay. As soon as you close the door, it does feel like another totally different space, doesn't it? And we've made sure that anything in the studio feels like work in a way. Like it's a really fun room to be in, but there's nothing personal in there, right?
Okay.
Yeah.
It's just that is where we work. So I think that's made it a lot easier. But like I do miss like commuting to somewhere. Or maybe I'm just kind of...
I don't think I do.
Yeah.
I wouldn't.
No, I think we a lot more productive and efficient. And actually,
we do constantly work.
On Thursday, we had a gig in Nottingham, which is like 3 hours from London, on Wednesday night, and we had a gig in London on Thursday night. So we got a car back from Nottingham at like 1 a.m. We got into our house at 3 a.m. on Wednesday night, and then we woke up at 9 a.m. and then we were able to spend like 6 hours in the studio finishing a song before a gig. Like that's so amazing.
Yeah,
that you can
amazing.
And you can be at home and see.
Yeah, that's the thing. When we're back from tour, all we want to do is be at home.
Sure.
So it's perfect because
you
studio
can wake
is
up
home.
in your own bed, roll into the studio.
Well.
Exactly, yeah.
Cool.
So it's if you're not being productive, something's gone wrong because it's very easy to be productive.
It's one of this is kind of devil's advocate then, but it's one of the traps then that there's always more to do in a way.
Yeah,
there's always some sound to tweak.
I think because we do all the production and songwriting and everything ourselves, there's always a vocal to edit, or there's always a synth part in your head, and when you go in the kitchen, you're like, oh, I need to put down that part.
But it's kind of always been like that where we're together, because I imagine that if we didn't live together, and like you'd like be in the studio and then you'd go home to your own life, then you would completely switch off from work. Whereas like we'd go out for dinner
and talk about work,
and we'd be like, oh, something would come up, or one of us would get an email, and it would suddenly. So I feel like we're just always working. In a nice way, like we enjoy it.
It's not the life-work balance thing for us. It's like
it's just work.
It's cool. It's fine.
It's so enjoyable. Yeah. Or like if one person's really creative at home and it's like on a Wednesday night, like oh, let's write a song. Then you're like, oh, okay, I was watching TV, but sure, now I guess we're writing a song. It's cool.
All right. Well, getting back to kind of what we started the interview with kind of. Feeling that you belong in what you do, and then I suppose that's kind of the sentiment, an overarching sentiment on the album, kind of believing in yourself and trusting yourself. So this thought, when did that bubble up? What was it in that period where you were home and kind of had a chance finally to reflect on some of what happened?
Yeah, it was.
Yeah, it was. We took a long break from touring, which we definitely needed, right?
Yeah.
Which was a great chance to reflect on the past 4 years before that.
Yeah.
Because when you're in it, when you're doing promo, or you're like traveling around the world, it's hard to take moments to pinch yourself and be like, "This is crazy," like, or just to not even pinch yourself, just be like, "I'm my own person," and like my job doesn't just define me. Or yeah.
Well, that's an interesting thing you just mentioned, because I've heard that before, where people who are in bands or are in musical groups, where their own identity becomes associated with that band, and they kind of feel they don't have anything
left
outside of it. But you already said you try to do things outside of it, so I won't go into that. But that idea of having your identity, because obviously when you're a public figure, people look at you a certain way, or people will have their opinions ready, and then when you release an album, they'll say what they think about it. So what is that like, navigating kind of being your own person and just who you are, and then having that person that everybody knows in a way?
I think we're at a level where it's okay. Like we don't get stopped in the street, or if we do, it would be like once a day from someone who's really nice and is like, I love your music, but
it's not overbearing.
But I can understand in the very small glimmers that I've had of that, I think it would genuinely be so awful to be famous.
Right.
we've obviously, I don't know if you follow British news, but there's a TV presenter at home called Caroline Flack,
yes, I heard,
sadly passed away 2 days ago, and I'm devastated. But my response to it, was kind of reflecting on like our lives, and I've seen moments of, like, it's brutal when someone on the internet says something unpleasant about you, which we're very fortunate doesn't happen a lot, but like people like,
you take in the bad stuff, you don't,
that sticks with you, like, you know, you can read 50 great album reviews and fan comments like, this has saved my life, and you read one review that's like, well, this is awful, and it hurts you, and that's just a review of an album, which is, let alone an attack on my personality. So I can't imagine strangers on the internet or in public or wherever you are commenting on you as a human, thinking that they know you, but you don't. Like, we need to have a cultural shift, I think, about how we view fame and people in the public eye, because it's really crap. Like, when there's a room of people that are like, I know you and I love you and I want a piece of you. You owe me something because I've listened to music. You need to come and talk to me. Why aren't you giving me more of your time? And you're like... And
then they're happy to turn on you if something goes wrong.
Yeah.
That's the trouble.
Like, the minute you're just like, oh, sorry, like, I'm really sick. I just need to go and sleep. Like, I haven't had any sleep for 3 days. And they get really, like, offended. And it's hard because you have, like... I have it with famous people, like... Your idols, you have this vision of what it would be like to hang out with them. But
what I was just now thinking, and this kind of relates to another song that you have on the album, but the way we let other people affect our kind of state of being, because I wish I never met you, and that's kind of people who kind of leave you with these scars or whatever you want to call it. But it's funny that if you think about it, you shouldn't let other people kind of outside affect you in that.
Not at all, manner. And that's kind of building your own like temple around you. You can't really. That's the ideal situation as a human, I think, is being strong enough that you don't have to have anyone to make you feel better or worse, right?
Yes, you derive your own happiness in yourself, and you don't rely on anyone for approval.
Yeah, and I think this album for us was our way of starting that journey, right?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
It's taken a while.
Starting this journey, so it's an ongoing process.
Yeah, I think it is for everyone. I think I'm sure there's like, when I'm 70, 80, I'll probably still be working on that. Like, as humans, you always have influence from around you in great ways, not many times. But I think to be strong and kind of just self-empowered is, for me, a big goal. Right.
Yeah, you're very wise.
And well, kind of where I want to go with the themes that are on the record, because does it help writing songs about those things and getting those thoughts out and kind of figuring that, does songwriting help in that respect, or is it kind of just an escape for a brief moment?
I don't think it's conscious, or certainly not with me. I think you just sit down and write a song and you don't really know what you're writing. Like, I remember writing Hallelujah, and we just started writing about a crown, and we were like, well, there's a crown and you wear the crown and cool. And it's not until you finish it that you look back at it and you go, oh, okay, I'm feeling that.
Yeah.
And then I think at that point you make sense of how you're feeling. So I don't personally write to feel better, but it just, I guess it is a release of sorts, but it's not conscious. Yeah.
Yeah.
Or is the approach, especially early on, more on the music side as well, and kind of the craft of making a song rather than the kind of what it means?
Exactly.
Yeah, and also we don't want to say too much what songs mean. Fair because enough. I think they mean such different things to other people. So we want someone to listen to our song and be able to apply it to any situation they're going through, and that's the power of music. I have no idea what my favourite songs by my favourite bands are about. And I'd never want to know, I think. Like, I'd know loosely what they're about, but if the songwriter of that song was going to sit me down and explain it, I would hate it.
Oh yeah, but for me, once I have a meaning, that's my meaning, and whatever the artist says, I don't care.
Yeah.
Exactly, and that's the insane thing about music, is that it means thousands of millions of different things to different people.
And so kind of on the sonic side, and because you have that studio, did you have a whole kind of new playground to try out new things?
Yeah, when we built the studio, we had, obviously because we're doing it from scratch, we could just figure out exactly how we wanted to lay it out. And it's cool, we have all these keyboards and pianos and stuff, which are always on. So if you want to play an instrument, it's already on, and you can hear it already. So it's just instant. So if you want to make something, you can literally just make it. It's really cool. Yeah.
Well, can you give me an example of a song maybe that came together really quickly in that fashion, where you just have something, you have an idea that comes in, and you think, oh, okay.
Yeah.
Well.
How It Goes is one like that.
Yeah. All of them really, but yeah.
How It Goes, we wrote actually this song with one of our friends, and we were playing this piano riff, and then I started playing a beat on the computer, and basically that's the song. There's not much else happens in the song really.
No.
Or like it took maybe half a day to.
Like In and Out of Love, we wrote in the living room in 5 minutes, and then ran into the studio, and the fact that everything's just set up, ready to go, we literally just recorded the piano in. And then there's a vocal booth with a mic that's just always on and ready to go. So I literally jumped in and recorded the demo, and the demo vocal is what is on the actual song. Because we tried to re-record them and it never sounds as good.
There's a lot of demo vocals because there's something magic when you sing a song for the first time, when you don't know what it is, what it's about, how you should perform it. It's just something in your being that needs to say something.
It's probably really difficult to put into words, but what is that like, going into the booth and you have just written a new song, you don't know what's gonna kind of be?
It's actually not very emotional because you're not attached to the song yet. You don't know this. You've only sung the song once, and you're reading the lyrics. You know, you're not really. Do you agree? But it's weird.
But I think it's something deeper down than that.
Insanely emotional. It's not an emotion here. It's like an emotion in your gut that you're not really aware of, but you've clearly just got something out. And then
the fact that you want to go in the booth and sing it says
it's always way better. Actually, it's probably it is inherently way more emotional than
re-recording.
We've just re-recorded a vocal from a song we wrote last year, and we were like, okay, cool, that verse is good. Like, it was just very like fire off the vocal.
Yeah.
Because I can imagine, like you say, that it's more of a gut thing where you kind of, it's almost, I don't want to compare it to faith, but it's kind of a leap of faith almost when you write a song and you kind of, okay, let's see that. I feel excited, let's see if we can capture that.
Also, I think it's easy to overthink. Very easy to overthink a recording, whether it's an instrument, whether you're recording a piano, or naturally whatever your body or mind goes to play, vocally or whatever, is right generally the first time you do it, because it's your true self trying to explain what it's the song you're singing. Right. So I think to try redo that 20 times and choose the best bits also works, but it might not be as true as the original vocal.
And I always like to ask this because I'm not a musician, but when it comes to the live performance then, because I think you're going on tour in April, March and April?
March and April.
What is it like being on stage then? Is it a cerebral thing, or is it very much kind of...
it depends on the show.
Yeah, it does depend on the show. We played some shows last week with the album, right? We did a few little shows.
Some shows are like, not in a bad way, but they just become like very, like going through the motions. Okay. And it's all dependent on the crowd. It's such a two-way conversation.
Sure.
Like, and if the crowd is not really into it, and it's not that they're not into it, but like, there's just not an energy there.
Or connection.
Then it's really difficult to, because it's basically like talking to someone that's just staring kind of vacantly at you. It's hard to have a conversation. Unsettling.
Yeah.
Whereas then when you get a crowd that are like giving you so much back, and it doesn't have to be noise or vocal, but they're just attentive, or you can feel like when someone is feeling something, then it's like...
It's funny when you can kind of read rooms really quickly.
Well, within the first song, you're like, this is going to be a good gig.
And you can just feel, even though you can't, like, maybe you can't hear them, but you can just feel an energy. We had that the other day.
Yeah.
And it feels like...
it's like electric.
Yeah, it's like bubbling up. It's really cool.
Is there more anxiousness now that you have new music kind of to play for people, or is it kind of the same as...
we're excited. I think
yeah.
we're taking we're stepping up our live show a lot more visually.
Okay.
And what we've done, we've taken all the old songs because we can now have 3 albums. So we've taken all the old songs and kind of reworked them and tried to reimagine them a little bit. Yeah, we're excited.
Yeah. We're prepared this time.
We are very prepared.
We've had so much time to prepare. Before, it was literally like release an album. It's like, guys, you're on a tour. And we're like, we're on a tour? What do you... And we were just in the middle of a world tour and we didn't really plan for it. So
yeah, now we have time.
We've been like a month in rehearsals already and yeah, it's going to be good.
Well, I wish you the best of luck.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for your time.
Thank
you so much for the great questions.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Amazing.